Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is October 21st, and the World Series matchup is set. The Championship Series is over. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today? It is the start of another week here in the month of October. Another playoff series done. And, there's just one to go. We started back in March with 30 teams. Fast forward to now, and we're down to the last two. We'll be talking about the games over the weekend here. We got 4 games, 2 for each. We know the outcomes. We know what is going to be talked about. And, the World Series is here. The final 2 teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees. But first, let's talk about the games that were and see how both of these 2 teams managed to get here to the World Series. So, Guardians and Yankees, Game 4. You got Luis Hill on the bump for the Yankees versus Gavin Williams. Soto skies one in the first early. A 2-run home runs gets the Yankees going. Jose Ramirez, a sac fly in the bottom half, gets one back. The very next inning, it's another Yankee home run. This one, Austin Wells goes deep. Later on, Josh Naylor, he drives in a run in the third. That brings the lead back down to 1 for the Yankees. But that then changes in the 6th. It's Giancarlo Stanton doing what he's done all series long. He hits a 3-run home run to put the Yankees up by 4. The Guardians would make things interesting in the 7th and 8th. In the 7th, it's Ramirez, an RBI double, followed by a Josh Naylor 2-run double, and that makes it a 1-run game. The next inning in the 8th, it is the David Fry with a dribbler to the pitcher, Mark Leiter Jr., who bobbles, then tosses it to Rizzo, goes through his glove, he goes past his glove, through his legs. And with that error, a run scores. The Guardians tie the game up. In comes Emmanuel Clase, and once again, he gets got. Not with the long ball, though. It's an error by Brian Rocchio that allows John Burry to score, and then a single up the middle from Glaber gives the Yankees a 2-run lead as they head to the last chance for the Guardians. But Tommy Kahnle is right there in his arsenal of changeups to get past the Guardians. The Yankees win this one 8-6 and are 1 win away from the World Series. So we'll go and take a look at Game 5. It's Carlos Rodon versus Tanner Bybee. The Guardians need to win the next 3 to move on to the World Series. They found themselves up early in this one. Bo Naylor, he doubles in the 2nd. That brings home his brother Josh. And we head now to the 5th inning. We jump along. It's Steven Kwan who adds a run with a single up the middle. Tanner Bybee was pitching really well in this game, pitching out of some troubled innings, but he was putting up zeros, and that was what was important until a really, really bad pitch. Giancarlo Stanton in the 6th. You cannot get away with something like that. With 2 outs and a runner on, Stanton demolishes that pitch from Bybee. That ties the game up at 2. We would remain tied until extras, where the Guardians needed this win. But in the 10th, it's Juan Soto, the man they trade for at the start of the season. He comes through a high, deep drive to center and gone, a 3-run home run. Weaver goes back out for his 2nd inning in this one. He gets the win. The Yankees are World Series bound. They beat the Guardians in 5 games. This one with a score of 5-2. What a series here for the Yankees. They looked powerful. A series what I thought was going to be, bullpen heavy. You get a couple runs against the starters, and then it comes down to who can maybe get that last run in the ending here. The bullpens kind of got beat a lot. Both the Guardians and Yankees bullpens were pretty untouchable in the first series. Guardians a little bit more struggle there with Class A, but the Yankees bullpen didn't send a single run to the Royals, and this series they got quite a lot here. But in the end, the games were great. So many close games coming down to one moment. A lot of late inning heroics from guys, Stanton and Judge, the back-to-back against Class A. The one game the Guardians won with David Fry and John Kensley Noel. Soto's, 3-run home run here in the 10th in Game 5. A lot of great moments and a lot of close games this series was built on. So made it very enjoyable. Yeah, gotta hand it to the Yankees on this one. They outplayed the Guardians from top to bottom, really, and that's why they've earned their ticket and are heading to the World Series. The first time they're heading to the World Series since 2009. It has been quite a while for the Yankees fans and the Yankee faithful and all the bandwagons that could be jumping on now. Get those Yankee hats out, because that's exactly what it's going to be for a lot of the New York. And of course, because there's only one New York team left, we'll have to talk about the Mets and the Dodgers. With the Guardians eliminated, though, the last three teams in the postseason were the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets. The three highest payroll teams in the MLB this season were the final three teams in the postseason here. It's kind of crazy to think about, but in the end, the money spent is well money spent, because here we are, end of the year, and it's the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets, the guys that spend the most, teams that spend the most money. They're the teams that hung around to the end here. So let's dive on in now to the Mets and the Dodgers. Taking a look here. It is Game 5. The Dodgers are up 3-1 in the series. They need one win, and they're sending out Jack Flaherty to get the job done. Mets sending out David Peterson. And Game 5 would get underway with the polar bear, Pete Alonso, going down and dirty for a slider low, and he crushes it for a 3-run home run. That was low for sure. Mets have that 3-run lead in the first. Dodgers get a run back in the second on a wild pitch from Peterson, but they would need way more than that, because in the third inning, the Mets drop a 5 spot on Jack Flaherty and the Dodgers. It's a 2-run double from Starling Marte, an RBI single from Alvarez, RBI triple from Lindor, and then an RBI single from Nimmo. The Mets in control. Top 4, it's Andy Pages. He's getting his first home run of the postseason, but the Mets are right there with 2 more in their half, a Winker triple and a Jeff McNeil sac fly. It's looking like another blowout game. Then before Andy Pages launches his second home run of the game, a 3-run shot that cuts the lead in half. The very next inning, it was Mookie with a solo shot, and all of a sudden the Dodgers had some momentum in this game, but as quickly as it came, it left. Jeff McNeil adds another sac fly, Starling Marte another RBI single. The Mets stay alive to fight another day. They head back to Dodger Stadium. They win Game 5 with a score of 12-6. The most runs scored in a single game this postseason is now 12, thanks to the New York Metropolitans. The Mets now will have to face Game 6. They will send out Sean Manaea. Dodgers going for a bullpen game, running with Michael Kopech to start it up. Little question mark here. Once again, it's Pete Alonso coming through and starts the scoring, an RBI single in the first, but the Dodgers get 2 in their half of the first thanks to Tommy Edman. He gets a 2-run double. Later on, it's the bottom of the third, and it's 2-run home runs for the Dodgers, Tommy Edman and Will Smith. Edman's already up to 4 RBIs in this game alone. The Dodgers looking really good right now, but next inning, it's Mark Vientos who cuts the lead in half. It's a 2-run shot for him, and Mets trying to keep things close here. Ohtani gets a part of this one as he gets an RBI single. Now in the final 3 innings, the Mets trying to stay alive. Alvarez makes it back to a 3-run game with his sac fly. But in the 8th, the Dodgers put it away. Mookie an RBI double. Teoscar Hernandez a sac fly. Kike Hernandez an RBI single. The Dodgers add 3 runs to double their lead. The Mets don't go away quietly. They add 1 in the 9th on a McNeil single. But in the end, they do go away as the Dodgers finish them off in the NLCS in 6 games. They head to the World Series for the first time since 2020. Unlike the Yankees and Guardians series, the Mets and Dodgers had a lot of high-scoring games. You had 10-5 in Game 6. You had 12-6 for Game 5. 10-2, it's a blowout for Game 4, 8-0, a blowout for Game 3, and then 7-3 for Game 2, 8-9-0 Game 1. So a lot of high scoring and just favorable matchups for one team or the other, of course, mostly favoring the Dodgers in this situation. But yeah, good baseball. It was kind of fun to see your team either get destroyed or be the ones destroying a playoff caliber team here. As mentioned in Game 5, the Mets' 12 runs is the most of any team this postseason. So, high-scoring games lead to high-scoring things. The Mets also become the first team in MLB history to beat the Brewers in the postseason and not make the World Series. Every other team that had beaten the Brewers in a postseason before has made the World Series. Whether they won it or lost, that didn't really have much effect, but Mets, first team to not do that. Tommy Edman in this series was fantastic. He tied Corey Seager in 2020 with the most RBIs in Dodgers franchise history in the NLCS. 11 RBIs for Tommy Edman, kind of the Mets killer in this series. The Mets just run out of things. They run out of Grimace, they run out of Hawk-Tua and their pumpkin, and all this stuff kind of all coincided to the end of the Mets this postseason. But they had a great run from where people thought they were going to be in this season. I think it's a resounding successful season for the Mets. Of course, when you're a team like the Mets and their high caliber, ceiling and expectations for themselves, you're disappointed. Obviously, you come so close, and you're going to have a lot of pieces that were around for this season that aren't going to be around for next season potentially. Jesse Winker and Jose Iglesias, two kind of like come-ups in the middle of the year that kind of brought on a lot of momentum and success. Jose Iglesias with his song and everything. And they also played really well for the Mets, so we'll see if either of them get a contract for next season, if they end up on different teams. But they're just the small pieces of what could be leaving. But of course, Sean Manaea, he was essentially the ace of this staff without Kodai Senga. Jose Quintana pitched well and everything, but Sean Manaea really, he gave every start all he had. You saw it in the way he was pitching this season. And, he's a free agent. And, of course, Pete Alonso, kind of the face of their franchise, the, guy who set 51 home runs was it in 2018, I believe, in his first rookie season, 2017 even. So he's been around. He's been a two-time home run derby champion, plenty of home runs, and has been kind of the face for the Mets. Who knows where he'll end up coming into the season next year. So the Mets will look very different, I believe, heading into 2025. So this was a good chance, but I think the Mets will spend some money this offseason as they usually do. And, I expect them to be back sooner than later. Of course, things kind of went right this season, having the Braves with their injuries. They had a good chance to fight. So we'll have to see what ends up with the Mets, but this was a good year for them. Just unfortunate the way it came to an end. But when you're with the Dodgers, when you're, one of the highest paid payrolls in baseball, and you got Mookie doing Mookie, he's back and he's not, slumping anymore. Ohtani is Ohtani, and he's just so incredible. And when you have your stars performing at the level that they should be, and then you have the guys who bat 6, 7, 8, 9, when they're coming up with clutch hits and clutch RBIs and getting on base for those stars, you end up with a completely different, looking Dodgers team right now. And even with all of their pitching injuries, it's their pitching that's surprisingly getting the job done as well. So the Dodgers are locked in. Ohtani is locked in. I mean, he's batting 818. Yeah, 818. 818 is his average in his last 22 at-bats with runners in scoring position. He's 18 for 22. And there's plenty of home runs and almost 30 RBIs to go with that. So Ohtani's locked in. Just get someone in scoring position, and he is guaranteed to get a hit. That's what we're hearing here. Taking a look now at kind of just both, I guess, the championship series, the ALCS and NLCS. We got to talk about the MVPs. Hey, we got those going. ALCS MVP, and we'll, players of the championship series. We'll just give out some mentions here. For the Yankees, it is Giancarlo Stanton, 4 for 18, which isn't the best, but when all 4 of your hits are home runs and clutch ones at that, definitely MVP worthy stuff here. 4 for 18, 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, 5 runs, 3 walks, a 1.222 OPS for Stanton, as he is your ALCS MVP. For the NLCS MVP, I mentioned him, tying Corey Seager in 2020 with 11 RBIs is pretty important, and it sets that franchise record again. Tommy Edman, 11 for 27 with 3 doubles, a home run, 11 RBIs, 5 runs, and a 1.023 OPS for him. But they were not alone, and there was other guys who also could have won this because there were a lot of great players in said championship series. Juan Soto was 7 for 19, a double, 3 home runs, 6 runs, 6 RBIs, 5 runs, 4 walks, and a 1.373 OPS. He led the OPS across both leagues, all 4 teams. He was the leader in OPS in the championship series. Right under him is Max Muncy, who was 5 for 15 with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 5 runs, and how about 11 walks from Muncy? Guy was getting on base, and it shows in his OPS, 1.363. A sensational NLCS for Max Muncy against the Mets. Of course, Shohei Ohtani needs to be mentioned. 8 for 22, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 9 runs, 9 walks. So it just seems like the Mets were just constantly walking these Dodgers. A 1.184 OPS for him. Of course, we'll give some mentions to some of the guys who are no longer going to be in the postseason. How about those Guardians? Kyle Manzardo had that clutch home run. David Fry, Giancarlo Noel, they were all great. The Naylor brothers were pretty good. Bo Naylor, Josh Naylor, and Jose Ramirez as well. So, the Guardians offense was great. And of course, Steven Kwan, one of the best when it came to the Guardians this postseason. Always seemed like this guy was on base, or at least trying to get on base. And the Mets had a lot of key pieces. Jesse Winker, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Francisco Alvarez. All these guys great offensively for the Mets, having huge moments in the postseason. Of course, Mark Vientos led them all. Mark Vientos had a sensational postseason and kind of broke out this season and in the postseason here. Expect big things for him next season. I feel like Mark Vientos is going to be taking up a notch. Right now, he and Stanton are tied for the postseason lead in home runs with 5 each, and he solely leads in RBIs. He's driven in 14 runs for the Mets. No other player has more RBIs than Mark Vientos. As of right now, of course, once the World Series starts, I'm assuming the Dodgers and the Yankees, Soto and Judge and Stanton and Ohtani and Betts, and I would say Freeman, but he's been playing hurt and hasn't been playing as much. But I'm sure some of these guys will take over. Tommy Edman, of course, had 11, so he's 1 or 2 RBIs out from tying Vientos. So overall, a great series for both the Guardians, Yankees, and the Dodgers and Mets for the ALCS and the NLCS. And we had the highest payroll teams heading into the World Series here, Dodgers and Yankees. Also want to shout out Giancarlo Stanton. I say shout out Giancarlo Stanton like I haven't been talking about him for the last 2-3 minutes here, but I looked at his career postseason. Of course, he was with the Marlins for a long time in his early days of his career, but made his postseason debut in 2018. He's been in the postseason every year with the Yankees since, except for last year. Of course, the Yankees did not make the postseason, but in his career, he has 35 career postseason hits, 16 of which are home runs. That, ladies and gentlemen, is somewhat absurd. Obviously there's a matter of hitting home runs here, and Stanton's a big guy. He gets into them when he gets into them. But he hits a home run out of his hits 45% of his time. His numbers-wise for his postseason, very similar to Babe Ruth's. So I mean, Stan's kind of been the guy in the postseason for him. Is obviously he can't run well, and there's some flaws by having him only being able to DH, and that kind of takes your spot there. But he's a great designated hitter. He's a great hitter in general, and I mean those numbers back it up: 35 career hits, 16 bombs, and I mean we talked about it. He hits home runs, especially against Cleveland. Remember, Yankees and Cleveland have matched up 4 of the last 5 years. Stan's been hitting key home runs in all of those series. It seems like has 4 of them in this one against the Guardians in the ALCS here. And yeah, big up Stanton, because where would they be without him right now? Maybe in Game 6 today or Game 7. So who knows? But in the end, it's going to be the Dodgers and the Yankees for the World Series. Kind of a shorter episode here today, not much to talk about. Of course, I could dive into the World Series preview and start talking about the Dodgers and start talking about the Yankees and all the good stuff that comes with that. But then what would I have to talk about on Friday? Because that's when the World Series starts. We got 4 days off. So yeah, there really isn't anything else to mention here. Friday's episode, there'll be no new baseball games. Monday's a day off, Tuesday day off, Wednesday, Thursday as well. So we will be back to the World Series, or we'll be starting the World Series back to baseball on Friday, October 25th. That will also be the next episode. And that episode will solely be talking about these two teams, talking about how their teams came about, talking about their postseason journeys, and previewing the World Series for the 2 number 1 seeds. We'll have some fun facts, a lot of stats, a lot of players to watch, and as well as a prediction of who I think is going to win the World Series. So stay tuned for all of that. That episode coming out Friday, the World Series preview. But for now, that is going to wrap up this episode. A nice, short and sweet one to enjoy your week on before we head to the World Series. I appreciate you all. The year is almost over. We're talking about kind of the end of the baseball season here. Episode, what is it? Could be 176. Wow, on the Friday for the World Series preview. Monday we'll be talking about games 1 and 2. And then on next episode will be November 1st. We'll either be talking about, the end of the World Series or games 3, 4, and 5. And then November 4th would be the official, definite, World Series wrap-up. So we have 3 or 4 episodes left of actual, regular season, postseason baseball before the off season starts, and off season episodes start coming rolling at you. So yeah, almost done the second season of Middle of the Order. Pretty crazy to think about. I appreciate you all, whether this is the first episode you're listening to or if you've been listening to all 175 it's gonna be. But yeah, I appreciate you all. Thank you, buddy, so much, and I will see you on Friday.